I'm wearing this shirt for a reason, not just because it's comfortable. My daughter brought me this back from Atlanta, and there's Martin Luther King centers there. And it says, I have a dream, what is yours? And as I thought about that last night, I said, I have to wear that shirt, because I have to tell you my dream. My dream, and this is real, really, really true. My dream, since I got my master's degree in learning disabilities, is that every regular ed teacher would understand the tools that kids with learning disabilities need and give them those tools so they could have access to the general ed curriculum, the barriers would be removed, and they would be on an equal playing field with their peers. That's my dream. And it starts with all of you, because you'll be classroom teachers. And so we're going to devote today and then hopefully Tuesday to give you some time to play with the assistive technology that I'm going to show you. So I came in this morning all excited and I had everything ready, and this computer for some reason would not let me download my software onto it. I don't know why. So at first I was like, I was upset, and my morning was going wrong, and then I thought, no, I'm the barometer in this classroom, right? So, being a teacher means that you're very flexible. We have to be flexible for the days to go well, the children to be comfortable and still to learn. So, I decided to put on my jacket of flexibility and happiness to see you all here, and we would get started with what will work today on the computer, and some of the assistive technology that I have here for you to see. So, you read the document about assistive technology. It gives you some background information about assistive tech. And one thing that you need to know about assistive technology before we discuss the definition of it is that every student who has an individual education plan or IEP, on that IEP it says, has assistive technology been considered? And the IEP team, the teacher, the special ed teacher, the principal, the counselor, those people, maybe the school psychologist, those people who work together to build a plan for that student for the year, discuss assistive technology that the student might need. Here's a problem that I've seen over and over. I've seen it when I visited special education teachers on the job, and when I have been an advocate at IEP meetings with parents and for parents and children. And that is, teachers don't understand why children should have assistive tech, and sometimes they don't understand what is assistive technology. So I hope, my objective is that you have gained enough knowledge that you leave here knowing what assistive technology is, the wide range of it, and when students need that assistive technology. Okay? So, we start with, let's look first at the definition of assistive tech. This slide, PowerPoint, was developed by a student in one of the graduate classes that we have here. I'm typing it. Okay, so we see assistive technology and the definition of what is assistive technology device and what an assistive technology service is. So, assistive technology device is any item, that could be a piece of equipment or a product system, whatever that is, and you can take it off the shelf in your classroom and modify it for that student, or customize it for one student who needs it. Or we can go to assistive technology catalogs and find assistive technology from a company that creates and develops it. So it's a device or a piece of equipment that's used to increase capabilities of a child with a disability, maintain the capabilities of a child with a disability, or improve the functional capabilities of a child with a disability. And what's that mean? What that means is, in your classroom, the child will be able to increase and maintain and improve his or her skills with using assistive tech. Assistive technology service, you can read that, but what it means is that anyone who works with that child who uses the assistive technology must be trained to use that assistive technology so that you can help the child use it or troubleshoot when the child's using it and reaches a spot that he needs help with. Okay? So if you have a student who has assistive technology and you haven't been trained, what should you do?
Get trained.
Get trained. Say, hey, that's a service he needs. Train me how to use it. Exactly. Good for you. Okay. Just some information that you should know about assistive technology. Not all assistive technology is a commercially made piece of equipment. Assistive technology historically has been pretty expensive. Okay? But let me show you a piece of assistive technology that's not expensive, and it wasn't created to buy and spend $50 on to use for a student. I have a lot of big 3-ring notebooks in my office. Okay. For a student who has a handwriting problem, this is very simple to use. Just set this up on the student's desk, put the paper here, put it at a slant, and then you can handwrite the assignment. So, okay, I've always known that would be a good thing, but when I had students who handed in a lot of written papers or just typed them and handed them in, I went home, and sitting at a table like this is very tiresome. And my writing gets pretty sloppy. When I did this, took my own advice, and used this large 3-ring binder, put your papers on here to grade them, oh my goodness, it rested my wrist, my handwriting maintained its perfectness, I don't know, perfect. My handwriting was much better. And I found that my arm didn't fatigue. So, it's a great piece of assistive technology to try maybe first with a child who has a writing disability, handwriting differences. So, if this works, then you don't have to provide him or her any other assistive technology. It's perfect. And you have other 3-ring notebooks in the class. If other students want to try it, yeah, they can try it. But this is just something I pulled off the shelf, and I didn't even have to change anything about it. I didn't have to modify it, but I could use it for a purpose to help the student, to improve his functional capabilities in the classroom. So that's a good example of an assistive technology device that doesn't have to be made commercially. Let me ask you a question. When you think of assistive technology, close your eyes, and I want you to think for 5 seconds. What do you see in your mind when I say assistive technology? Okay, time's up. What did you see? What did you see, Joey? Computer? Okay. Me too. I see that when I think about it. Okay. What do you think, Suzanne?
A laptop, because it's portable.
Laptop, because it's portable, easy to carry back and forth. Okay, good. What did you think, Ebony?
Some translator.
Translator?
Well, tablets, and stuff.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Perfect example. Okay, good. How about you, Hannah?
Oh, it's all like an interpreter.
Oh, an interpreter, okay. No, that's fine, yeah. So like a person who's an interpreter? Oh, yeah, good. For someone who's deaf? Yeah. You, Hannah, you were...
I'm Taylor.
I'm sorry, Taylor. You're Hannah. Hannah. I want Hannah.
Well, whenever we read Out of My Mind for Children's Lit, and so I always think of what she used in that book was the writing board, and she moved the letters and everything, so that's the person that I always think of.
Okay, so that was a high-end piece of assistive tech,
That
probably
was
cost
really expensive.
thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So someone who has physical disabilities and who doesn't have speech for communication and has some fine motor and large motor skill issues. So, yes, a communication device is very expensive. Okay, good. Hannah, thank you. How about you, Taylor?
I was gonna say the same thing, like I think they're called like media talkers, where they talk it, I mean, they push the buttons and it says something for them.
Augmentative communication device.
Yeah.
Yep, good. Yeah, very expensive piece of assistive tech. Okay, and then you're gonna tell me one more.
I was thinking of like how kids, they sometimes have books that you can touch a word and they'll say on like the leap pads and different stuff like that now, so that if they come on a word that they can't sound out or whatever, it'll help them with it, but not every single word, just like the tougher ones that they can touch and have help with.
Okay, good, yeah. It pronounces a word, so they don't have to stumble over it and lose their concentration and or comprehension. Okay, good. Joseph, you have one.
What about just like a Velcro strip, like where they have, like they could see what they're doing, what they have next, and they can choose like rewards. Like, I don't know the name of that, but it's just like.
Visual schedule.
Yeah.
Yep, a visual schedule is an example of assistive tech. It doesn't cost much, because I just have to buy 2 long strips of Velcro or little strips and cut it, and then make a picture, put the Velcro on the back, they pull it off, put it back on. Yeah, not very expensive at all. A little more time consuming, but not even too much time consuming. That's assistive technology. All right, good. You've all had some good examples of assistive technology. In this class, we're going to only work on or work with assistive technology for kids who have learning disabilities, for kids who have ADHD, for kids who have emotional or behavior disorders, for children who have high-functioning autism, and for children who have intellectual disabilities, but mild intellectual disabilities, because those are the students that we work with within the realm of this class, because those kids will be in your classroom for most or all of the day, and will need assistive technology to access the curriculum, okay? All right. So you mentioned some really good ones that some children might use, like in the book Out of My Mind, which just touches my heart. We won't talk about that level of assistive tech or the augmentative communication devices, although I'll show one on here for you. Okay, so any item can be considered assistive tech as long as it increases, improves, or maintains a student's ability to function in your classroom. Here's another good example. Occupational therapists are experts about assistive technology because they're a medical field, they have that medical background, and they work with equipment a lot in their training. And you will find in occupational therapists' closets, you'll find a lot of assistive technology. So make a friend with your OT. And ask, do you have this assistive technology? So we had an OT who worked with our special ed co-op at one time, and they needed a balancing chair for this little guy to sit on, because remember, sometimes children with ADHD need to have their brain engaged through movement, right? Their brains will not engage unless they're moving. And so the the occupational therapist person found a stool, so it had a board, 2x4 here, 2x4 on top, and that was a stool the child was to sit on because he had the balance to stay on. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my dad and brothers each had one of their very own, and they were the milk stools. They sat on the milk stools by the cow's udders and milked the cows. And my sister and I used to love to go out and balance on the milk stools, and we thought we were pretty hot stuff when we were little because we got Dad's milk stool out and used it. And so the OT, the milk stools, I'm going to call them that, the assistive technology, the stools to sit on to cause students to move, they were like $50 a piece. So her husband's a carpenter, he went out and bought 2x4s and made 15 of them, for less than what one would cost through the catalog. So we do what we do, and we create what we need sometimes and get ideas through catalogs for assistive technology. Because historically, it's expensive to use. Okay. Here's some technology. that's kind of, these are some examples of some low-end technology, and we'll get a chance to use this one and some other low-end that I have with me too. But here you can see the visual schedule, kind of like you were talking about, Joseph, very low-end. It doesn't take a battery or electricity, so it's low-end technology, right? A reading helper that just highlights the line that the student's reading, that's low-end assistive tech. They cost about $5 a piece. They don't take a battery or electricity. How about this? Math facts on a chart on the corner of a child's desk. That's assistive technology if the student needs it. Doesn't cost anything, okay? So that can be assistive technology if the student cannot remember math facts. So it's right there. He or she can do his math work and not make errors because he doesn't remember the math facts. Okay, bright line paper. Visual timers, those are called time timers over here. These are really helpful for students who have autism, so they see how much time they have left on task, and they're able to stop when the time is up. So that's a wind-up type thing, so it's considered low-end assistive technology. Any questions about any of those? Let me get back to where it was here. Okay, more advanced assistive tech. Here's what you were talking about, I think, with the student in the story. The augmentative communication device. And these can be very simple with like two squares on them, might say yes or no, or bathroom, drink, whatever. And they can be very sophisticated like they are for this young man. It looks like there are 64 squares on this, and it might have 12 levels, which means there are 12 of those sheets with 64 of the squares on them on that one device, used for various environments. So one might be used to go to a basketball game, one might be used in the lunchroom, one might be used at home, one in the classroom. These are very expensive. Okay, we're going to see this today. It's a talking dictionary, and you'll see how well that works. It doesn't cost very much, but it's battery operated. Graphing calculators or talking calculators, either one. So some good examples of assistive technology. Oh, any questions about that? Okay, so you read the article that I wrote about assistive technology, just for a little background information. And as a regular teacher, I'm sure you probably think, how am I going to know what the child needs for assistive tech? Who had that question? Raise your left foot. If you had that question, how would I know what the kid's going to need to be successful in my classroom? There's a few people who have that question. Okay, that would be my first question. How would I know what the kid needs for assistive technology, right? I don't know. Well, Joy Zavala is an expert in assistive technology, and she developed this framework, and as I listened to her talk and went through some other ways to determine what the student needs, to me, this spoke very clearly of how we can determine as an IEP team what the student needs for assistive tech. So, we look at S. What does S stand for? S stands for the student, right? Okay, good. And when we think about the student, we have to consider the student's strengths and weaknesses or needs, right? Okay. So what does strengths have to do with it? If I gave this to a child who had cerebral palsy and very fine motor coordination issues, it wouldn't work for the student. He doesn't have the strength of his fine motor skills, right? But I might give him one of the augmentative communication devices. He could touch the square. So we have to think, what are the student's strengths? Can the student see well and follow along in the text as it's being read? Yes. Can the student write his or her math problems after he listens to it? Yes. So we have to think, what are his or her strengths? And then we have to think, what are that student's needs? And I'll come down to that in a moment. So when we think about the student, the next thing we need to think about is what? Environments, right? Okay. For the student that we're focusing on in this class with LD, ADHD, BD, mild intellectual disabilities, high functioning autism, the environments we're going to consider will be, the only one we're going to consider right now is the classroom, okay? Because our students are going to be okay on the playground, they're probably going to be okay on the, in the lunchroom, on the bus. So we're going to consider just the classroom. Does that sound okay to you? What's this T stand for? Tasks. Think about, if you have a second grade classroom or a third grade classroom, what are the tasks that a student's required to do in that classroom, academically? Write paragraphs, right? Correct. Okay? What else?
Read.
Read. You have to read those content, the reading book, the literature book, science, health, such stuff. Good. What else does a student have to read? Yeah, have to read like math problems, word problems, exactly. How about directions? Changing classrooms or instructions if they need to change classrooms, right? Okay.
They
So,
don't just have a homeroom teacher, they have a homeroom teacher, but they also have like.
it depends on the district, how they work that, so that's a good question. Sometimes they have a homeroom all day, and sometimes they have a homeroom, and then they go somewhere for math, and so forth, so, yeah, okay. The student after,
They need to communicate with them.
oh yeah, they do. They need to communicate. Okay, so they communicate through speaking and through writing and through listening, right? Okay, good, good. All right.
Starting music stuff.
Starting music?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. We're going to go more academic right now, but yes, very good, very good. And sometimes we'll talk about that with some behavior when we do that chapter. So I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, so we have the student, the environments, we're going to talk about the classroom. What are the tasks that you require of the student in the classroom? Then what's the last T? Tools. Tools, okay. Okay, so tools. So that brings us down to what tools does a child need? And that's where we start talking about assistive technology. Okay. A word to the wise. And IEP teams don't always realize this, but the student needs to be involved in that piece of equipment or software that you purchase for the child. If you buy it without checking with the child or having him or her try it, and most companies will let you try it before you buy because it can be expensive. If the child doesn't like it or feels funny about using it in the classroom around his or her peers, he won't use it. And it'll go on the shelf in the OT's closet and get a lot of dust on it. So it's very important to involve the child. I have worked with children and adolescents who've been given laptops to take in the classroom, and they won't do it. Why? Why do you think they don't want to? Nobody else is using it, and so they look funny, and they'd rather fail than look funny. You might still be at that stage too. Sometimes I am, although it's getting a little easier. But we want to make sure the child feels comfortable with the device or the software. So they need to be a big part of that. So whatever tools the child needs to complete these tasks, because he has these needs. So we tie these three together, okay? And we need to make sure he can use it by looking at his strengths. So set. To me, it's a great framework for the IEP team to sit down and determine, with the child too, what that child needs to be successful in the classroom. Okay. What do you think that teachers generally use when a student needs help in a classroom? What's the most common thing provided for help for a child in the classroom?
Para.
Para. Yep. Yep. What's the danger of that?
You know, we're independent.
Yeah, they don't develop independence, people. They wait for Mrs. Darby to come in and sit by them and open the book and get started reading and point to the answer. And they do that because they love the child and want the child to be successful, right? They have such great hearts. But let's train the para to help with the student to use assistive tech if that's, and kids catch on to it so quickly. It's amazing. It's amazing. So let's get down to brass tacks and see what we have for assistive tech. Okay. So I want to show you a few things for reading. I'm going to show you some things for writing. And I want to talk to you about some things for math. So the first thing I want to show you is kind of this takes electricity to run, and it costs about $250. Would you say it's high end, low end, or middle? High end. Yeah, $250 is a chunk of change. And it's called a reading helper. No, card reader. That's what it's called. So let's look at the card reader. These were developed in the 1970s when we did research on brains and what helped children to learn. We talked the other day about using multiple modalities when we were practicing all those cool writing activities. This uses multiple modalities. So it can be used for reading, it can be used for subject content, and math. So I'm going to show you a few things. So I'm going to use this first of all for vocabulary for you in this class, and you can use it for any vocabulary in the classroom. Math vocabulary, social studies vocabulary, science vocabulary, okay? So let's look at this. What I've done is I have taped this, and I'm going to tell you how I did that in a minute, but I want you to be wowed first. So here we go.
An exemplar is an example showing the teacher's expectations.
Okay, so whoop, there went an exemplar on the floor. The student then can sit back at a reading center and independently put headphones on and use whichever ones you're assigning him, whatever content that might be. I'll show you a few more.
Safe means free and appropriate public education.
Here's something you may learn today.
Handicap, a term no longer used to describe a disability.
All right. So there's an example of vocabulary. Okay. So let's say I wanted to use another term like photosynthesis. Okay. So I'm going to retape this card. I'm going to take these off. And I'll make, let's say I'll make these cards to go on here. They're blank cards. Photosynthesis, a process a plant uses to make energy.
Photosynthesis, a process a plant uses to make energy.
So I could just have the word in the definition.
Yeah, the child can have their own teacher while reading.
Yes, yes, the child, it's supposed to have a teacher record, but this is broken. The teacher record is broken. But I would record it as a teacher on a machine that both these buttons work. And then the student would listen and then record his own voice. So, yeah, you could have another student record it. Here's something a parent can do very easily as well, right? Okay, so now we're going to talk about some reading.
These are 3 ways to write there.
Okay, so you can do homophones. And then I've just done some TH words at the beginning, the initial sound of TH.
Those.
Good way to practice some specific words, maybe that they'll find in reading later.
Thumb.
Or maybe you're teaching really low elementary where they're developing some basic sight word skills. This would be good for that.
That.
You'll notice I didn't get that in the very bottom, but anyway, that. Okay. Now, and I've color coded. Did you notice? So I have reading in green, and in white I have vocabulary, and in orange I have math. So the child can easily see which one they're going to use. So if they're going to use a math, then they pick up the orange card. So if a child's working on memorizing math facts,
6 times 4 is 24.
okay, so they kinesthetically put it in the machine, and they can tactily touch the button to record. Auditorily they hear it, and visually they see it. Look at all the modalities they're using. Pretty cool, right?
Six times 3 is 18.
Okay, so you see that.
I really like that the child can record his voice and practice for that.
That is really good, yeah.
So he can like learn how his own voice sounds in his ears.
And that's powerful for learning. It really is, because it's like, wow, listen to me and what I did. And so it's motivating. Yeah, I agree.
Well, and that's the same way like your thoughts are. You hear your thoughts in your own voice, so if you hear something repeatedly in your own voice, then it will stick in your head just like your
It's
thoughts.
easier to understand your own thoughts.
Good, good. Very good. So you see the strength of this machine. In the 1970s is when these machines were developed, and they were heavy and green and metal, and they lasted until the year 2000, seriously, yeah. And every one of us had one in our classroom. Our school budgets were pretty high at that time. But I would say every classroom ought to have at least one or maybe 2 of these. So,
Judy had 2 dogs. She gave Marla 1. How many dogs does Judy have left?
okay, so I read the word problem, and then I've written it out horizontally and vertically, so they can see both ways of writing a math problem, and they can hear the math problem.
The only downside is how much time you have to sit.
That was fast. Yeah. And you could actually, if you wanted to, record it on 2. Record it on 2 cards and just have them side by side. Yeah. And these are blank cards, and I know they don't come in this box anymore because Bell and Howell used to make the language masters, they called them then. But you can buy blank cards. I would much rather buy blank cards than pre-recorded cards. We have a whole bunch of pre-recorded cards in the Resource Center, but I customize my cards with my own vocabulary, with my math problems, with my content. So, and it's very easy to change the cards out and record over those. So you can use them forever. So I like that about the customization of it. So this machine, the card reader, can be used for many different subject areas, and it's multisensory. So I really like this machine for assistive technology. It's great. Pardon me? Yeah.
Have they made any of those where you can slow it down so you don't have to use 2 cards, or like use?
With the speed?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know. I don't know. I think these are about 5 years old, so that's a good thing to research. It would be nice if you could slow down and speed up the speed of the tape.
But I feel like there's like apps now on iPads that would have some of the same capabilities for a student to like play a problem that you have recorded as a teacher and see it. Maybe even, like there's ones where you can record and speak and write at the same time, and they would be able to watch you work out the problem while you're speaking, and they would still have to push play, have the headphones in and everything.
Right, there are those apps.
There's a really good app that's that same thing. It's called Show Me, if you want to get it.
And that's something I want you all to get on your iPad. It's free. Show Me.
Show Me.
Yeah. But what's the difference? And I like those apps. And if the schools have tablets of some kind, that's great. What do you see as the difference between that app and this technology? Pardon me?
More physical.
It's a little more physical, yeah. And I get to manipulate. And kids really like that manipulating. But I agree with Joseph. Show Me is excellent. EduCreations is another one that's a free app and can be used as well with the stylus or the fingertips. Okay? So I'm glad you mentioned that. Because we have to know, okay, are there differences? Is it worth buying this over the app and so forth? So it's something you have to consider.
Some students might respond differently to either one.
Yep, some students might respond differently. You are absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Okay, so good comments. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. Okay, so for reading, I'm going to show you a few other high-end. And Ebony, you said you put your textbook on your Kindle?
Mm-hmm.
And we'll have to see, have you tried having it read to you?
No.
That would be pretty fun if you did. Okay, so I have a lot of books on my Kindle. How many of you have some device that you can have read to you or whatever?
Does our textbook read to us?
I
don't think so. I have it on there.
You what?
I have it on there too.
Okay. I've tried to get it to, and I can get it to do specific words, but I haven't had it to read me a whole passage. I wish it would. Okay, so here on my Kindle, I just went to the capital A, I think it was, and it brings me up. I can change my font, my typeface, my line spacing, and so forth, but then I can turn on text-to-speech. It should read to me. I think I have the speech turned pretty fast. But then I'm going to go to speech rate. There we go.
Read the face.
So I can change it default fast or slow. It will turn the page for me. And I had a student who got this on her iPad, on her Kindle, and then she just plugged it in her computer. And she was a housewife. She cleaned house. All the kids were sleeping, and she listened to her textbook. It was really nice. So I think yours probably would, Ebony. But now I have to go back and stop this. Okay, so we turned her off. So does this look pretty typical to carry around in the classroom? Yeah. So students would probably respond really well to a book on an iPad or a book on a Kindle. It looks normal. Other kids have devices similar to that. And when students have reading disabilities and you require them to read some other books for accelerated reading tests or grade level books, literature that may be Caldecott books that you want them to read, you need to let them listen to those books. Okay? You need to let them listen to the books, and here's why. There are a number of reasons. One, they're age appropriate, right? Two, they're hearing the same vocabulary that their peers without disabilities are learning. That's very important. You'll read in Bryce's case study that he has below average vocabulary. Well, you better be listening to age level books then, right? And three, it develops reading fluency. They hear a fluent reader. So that's very important. Now, I haven't read research about this, but after working with audiobooks and working with students writing, I think it improves their sentence structure in their writing because they're hearing good sentences. They're hearing complex, compound, and simple sentences in their reading. So they start writing using those types of sentences. They start writing using better vocabulary. So never require a student to sit with a first grade book if he's a third grader because he doesn't read at third grade level. They need to hear the same literature and they need to learn to love literature. And they do that by listening to it. Yes?
Well, I think that, one, you've been around children that listen to audiobooks, but I think that you're correct because in our EL 310 class, we were reading about diverse learners and how like all the aspects of their life affect their schooling, so you can't like be in control of like outside of school, but it still affects their learning. And so I think that you're right, that like if they start hearing it more, then they'll get better at writing it.
Thank you, yeah. Yeah, I think that these two classes reinforce themselves on that very fact. Good.
Another thing, I remember just thoroughly enjoying when the teacher would read to us in class. Like,
Oh,
that
yeah.
was just such a good part of the day. And I was just thinking about this morning, now that like, I have so many books on my iPad that I've had to get for classes, like the children's lit class and stuff, that if I wanted to read one of those to my students, and I had a smart board or whatever, I could just do the AirPlay and have it up so that they
Oh,
could
yeah.
see what I'm reading at the same time,
Mhm.
and be able to follow along in big print on the board while I'm reading it, so that they don't have to worry about their eyes just being strained staring at their desk all day flipping papers. They can see it big at the front of the class.
Good point. And let's try that on Tuesday. If you guys have some children's book, you want to airplay them, let's do that and see how much you enjoy that. Otherwise, the teacher used to sit here and then she'd turn the book around with 30 kids. And you got to see this picture that's this big, right? So yeah, with the smart boards and with AirPlay, Apple TV, that makes it really good to read books. And even when I was in elementary school, after lunch, the teacher read to us. What a wonderful time of day. How many of you loved that? Yeah, it was really good. We got to hear a lot of good stories. And actually, I think we read Laura Ingalls Wilder books then. Yeah. So, it's good to have children listen to books that they enjoy so that they can learn to listen to textbooks later. I worked with a little boy this summer, and I got him some audiobooks from the library, and they were young children's audiobooks. And he didn't read, his mother doesn't read because she has dyslexia, and they don't have books in the house. They just don't. 4 of them live in a 10-foot wide trailer, and they don't. So I told Mom, why don't you get a library card and go to the library? Because when we put one of those CDs in the computer, and the book was all on the computer, so he didn't have to look back and forth, he loved those books. Then he loved the music at the beginning that sets the tone for the story, and then the sound effects throughout the story. He loved those books. And so he was developing that love of literature. That's so important to ingrain in a child. And we can't do that by giving them a picture book when they're older and expecting them to read word by word, okay? We just have to do that. I have worked with 6th graders who went to the library, they all went to get a book, and the teacher went with the student I was working with, and she read like at 2nd grade level, and the teacher picked her out a word, like a picture book, and gave it to her, said, here's your book. Everybody else is choosing 6th grade level literature. How do you think that girl felt? Really embarrassed. And she just didn't have friends. Nobody wanted to hang out with her. Those little things really build up with kids, and we really need to watch those things. iPods. On my iPod, I have audiobooks. Go back for me. Okay. And I have The Hunger Games. I love that series of books. So these are very good for kids to have because they have headphones in. Everybody's got a phone or something connected to their ears on campus. I walk by people on campus and I go, hi. And they never even look up because they got their headphones in. So finally I start going, so it's okay to wear headphones and listen to books. What a wonderful way to use an iPod and be really cool in the classroom, right? It's really fun. And so these are just wonderful tools to have, and they look normal, and they are, and it's great. Okay. So what's your question about audiobooks? Anybody have a question about audiobooks and kids reading? How about following along with the text?
Yeah.
Okay. I used to be a firm believer that a student had to follow along with the book, with the written word. Okay? And then one summer I tutored a little guy who was 12 and had never gone to school. He'd been homeschooled. He read pre-primer level, probably. And so we were reading Gary Paulson, bless you, because that was what he was interested in, was hunting and that sort of thing. And he tried to keep up in the book, and it just didn't work for him to do that. And so I had a student in my 560 class who has dyslexia, and she said, when teachers made her follow along, all she did was try to keep up, and she had no idea what was going on in the story. And she said, when they let me just listen, then I listened to the story, I understood it, and I loved it. So I changed the way I thought about that. You need to consider the child, the reading skills the child currently has, and the difficulty of the book, and will it hinder the child to try to have to find where he or she is in the book? So I think it's professional judgment. And once she said that, I was like, wow, I never even thought about that, but it makes really good sense. So 2 ways to consider that. Okay, yes, Suzanne.
Well, like, I don't know if everybody knows, but my fiance has like several learning disabilities, and he has dyslexia and ADHD and dysgraphia. And so, like, when he read when he was little, all he read was like the only things he read was for school. And so he never read any fictional books. And so when he met me, like, I would have to read stuff for children's lit and other things. And so I started reading some fictional books to him. But like, I'd read to him for a long period of time, even like, I need time to catch my breath or something. So I'd have him read a page or two, and then he wouldn't understand what happened during those 2 pages. Like, because while he's reading, he's trying so hard to decode the words that he doesn't comprehend what he's saying. So even though he's reading it, and it might be like a few mess ups here and there, like, he's not understanding anything that he's saying. Whereas when I was reading and I asked him something, because he's ADHD too, so he has to like do something while I'm reading to keep paying attention, I guess. So
To engage his brain,
Yeah.
keep it engaged.
So sometimes he'll play like games that don't have any words while I read, and if I ask him questions, it's like he knows more than what I'm reading. Like, he knows more about the story than I do. So just little things I don't know.
So it's good to know, good information to know, yeah. I used to tutor a young man, like for 8 years I tutored him, until he got to be a big man. And he loved reading World War II books. And so I would buy me a copy and him a copy of the book, and then I'd have the audio book on my computer, and I'd have him follow along, and I'd have the book, because I don't like audiobooks, I've got to read it. And so we got the book unbroken, and I only got me the book, and I got the audiobook, so he's like, where's my copy? And I told him the story that my student said, and he said, oh, thank goodness, finally. And so I had a couch in my office, so he would lay down on the couch, and he would have his eyes closed. Pretty soon he'd just laugh and laugh at the story because it was really funny during that part. We finished the book unbroken. I don't know if any of you read it or seen the movie.
I've seen the movie. It's awesome.
It's an awesome book. And he said, that's the best book I have ever read. He loved reading World War II books. He loved it. And also then later, in current history, he loved reading, we read the story of the people, the Navy SEALs who captured and killed bin Laden. He said, let's get that book really fast before they take it off the market because it's very controversial. Okay, good. And we did, and he loved it. So he loved reading. He loved literature. And I hope today he still loves literature. I really, really do. I hope we develop that literature base. Okay, I want to show you some assistive technology with this little person here, the Franklin Talking Dictionary. But first, I want to show you the video. And actually, it is in your module, and I finally got it to work because we fixed the computer so we could make it work. So, I think it might be right here. Nope, it's not there.
It's up at the top. You had a tab open. Now you have 2.
I got 2. All right, thank you. All right, here we go. Now I want you to listen carefully, teachers. Remember, you are teachers, right? Listen carefully about using dictionaries.
If I ask you how to spell a word, chances are you'll tell me, go look it up. But how can I look it up if I don't know how to spell it? You'll probably
Yeah.
tell me, sound it out. Okay, here's my word, giraffe.
Is that good?
The keyboard echo option is turned on so the individual letters can be heard as they are pressed. This feature can be turned off. If I try to look up the word giraffe by spelling it phonetically the way I think it sounds, Jiraf, I cannot use a paper dictionary because I'll start with the J's and not the G's.
Right?
Also, most
Yeah.
computer software programs will not be able to correct JIRAF to GIRAFFE. The Kid 1240, like other Franklin spellers and dictionaries, shows me a list of possible matches. If I recognize giraffe at the top of the list, I'm done. If I don't recognize giraffe, I can press the speak button to hear the word pronounced. Giraffe. I can also highlight and hear all the words on the screen. It's important to remember that most people have a larger auditory vocabulary than a visual one. That means we're more likely to recognize a word by hearing it instead of reading it. Then just to be sure, I can also press the enter button to see a basic definition for the word giraffe. The Kid 1240 offers easy to understand definitions, and you can hear these pronounced too. Press the speak button to hear it. As an extra benefit, we highlight each word as it's pronounced. You can read along. Because the Kid 1240 pronounces words and definitions, it is often used as a reading aid. When your kids see a word they don't know, they can enter it into the device,
So you
look
can
it
have
up,
it right
and
next
learn
to
it
their
pronounced. Next, press the ABC button to see how to write the word giraffe in manuscript.
You got to pass your handwriting test, right? You can borrow my dictionary.
Press the ABC button again to see how to write it in cursive. Repeat these graphics as often as you want. Press the rhyme button to see a list of words that rhyme with giraffe.
Rhyme for your word.
And remember, you can hear pronunciation of all the words in the list by highlighting them and pressing the speak button. When you see a word you want to remember, save it to a list, or save all your weekly spelling words. Press the list button to add the highlighted word.
I added your word.
Words saved to your list can then be accessed whenever you want to review them. When you're finished with a word, delete them and add new ones. You can also use them when playing any of the 4-word games. Like all Franklin spellers and dictionaries, the Kid 1240 uses Franklin's matchmaker features, where an asterisk and question mark, which can be used to find words or build word families. Use a question mark in place of a single letter. Matchmaker is great for crossword puzzles too. Just type in the letters you know and use a question mark for the ones you don't know. The asterisk can be used in place of any number of missing characters, including 0. For example, B asterisk T displays a list of hundreds of words that start with B and end in T. When you're scrolling through a list or in a dictionary entry and see a flashing question mark, press the question mark button to see confusables. These are words that are easily confused because they look the same or sound the same. These are words like hear, there, read, and read. The Kid 1240 is a sturdy, kid-friendly device. It's easy to hold and handle. The large buttons are easy for kids to press. It's strong and durable, but like any electronic device, like a calculator, it can be broken. On the sides of the device, notice the volume control, and on the other side, the universal headphone jack. Plug in the headphones for private listening. On the back is the battery compartment, which holds 4 AAA batteries. And you don't have to worry about draining the batteries, because like all Franklin products, it will automatically shut off after a short time to preserve battery life. With all of these great software and hardware features, Franklin's Kid 1240 makes an ideal first dictionary for any child.
Okay. Now, even though that's an advertisement, for the dictionary, it explains what a dictionary does, this device does really well. And so, from the Franklin company, it's $50. I got on Amazon because I wanted to buy one to have for your classes, and I got it for $29. So, but the Franklin is the best one, and it always has been historically, because it does all these different things, and it is very durable. Okay?
Can you speak into it to show like?
No.
Are there any devices like that to where you can speak in it and it will spell the word out for you?
Well.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about that. Your phone.
Yeah, I was like, that's what I was thinking, just the mic on Google, on your
Yeah.
smartphone. You can do it. I do that all the time. I did that for this assignment. I didn't know how to spell kinesthetic.
See, there you go. Yeah. And we're gonna look at our iPads and 2 apps that are really good for like speech to text. Yeah. But this requires typing in, keying in the words. So that's a really good question, Zeke. Thank you.
The only thing I don't like about it is the computer voice.
Okay, and I'm glad you said that. The computer voice is not very advanced. I might be able to get more advanced voice if I paid a lot more for it, I'm not sure. I'd have to look into that. The one thing I can say, it's not a good voice, but it's better than not having it. Yeah. And like the Kindle, it's the same way. It's a computerized voice that reads me the book, but if that's how I have to get the book, have to access it, then it's good. It's better than not having it. So, and I'm glad you said that, because the whole time I'm thinking, I hope somebody asked that question. So good job, good job. Other comments about the Franklin Talking Dictionary?
I do like that you can put a question mark or an asterisk and it gives you a list of words.
Oh, no, I do too. Yeah. How about the rhyming feature?
Right?
It is, and a rhyming, being able to rhyme words is a pre-reading skill, right? So this young man who grew into a big man that I tutored for a number of years and really enjoyed those World War II audiobooks. So one night I just thought, well, I haven't even checked to see if he rhymes. So I said, let's play some rhyming games. And so I said, rhyme a word with, like rhyme a word with basket. And he said, Mom. Whoa, okay. He read it about the 1.5 grade level. He was 16 at the time, and he couldn't rhyme, which told me there was a big gap in his pre-reading skills, wasn't there? So I taught him to rhyme, and then he could rhyme. But it has rhyming, I really like that. Anything else you really like about this, or you don't like about it?
That it's compact, it's real portable.
Compact, you can carry it back and forth to school, it doesn't take up much room on your desk. Yeah,
I like how you don't have to spell the word correctly. Or,
yeah,
That
that's
was
good.
either list with the right option.
Mhm.
I wonder how accurate that is, or like how,
How many words it has.
That, if you look on the website, it tells you how big the dictionary is. So it's a kid's dictionary, and so it's not gonna have a really big range of words. You'd have to buy a more intermediate or advanced.
Or just what
Yeah.
they developmentally need to know.
Yeah, I would say so. Probably 4th grade, something like that would be my
So
wild
it's
guess.
pretty cheap too. Like,
Yeah.
for $29,
Get all
like,
that off.
you could even just like, you wouldn't have to buy it for your classroom. Like a parent could buy that and that wouldn't be that much
Right.
out of their pocket to where they can take it home, they can have it there,
Mhm.
and then they can also bring it to school.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So parents could afford, most parents could. Some might not be able to, but some could. And so they'd say, is there anything I can do for him at home? And say, you might say, well, you know what? On this website is a really good pocket handheld talking dictionary to really help with the spelling list for the week. So, yeah, good point. So,
You could even just buy one if you had 2 or 3 kids, they can share.
oh yeah, definitely. And we had one for the special ed co-op that we used for like 2 students for 5 years. And it was still working when we brought it into the resource center. So that talks a lot about its durability, because you know it got dropped, you know it got shoved in backpacks, and maybe the baby sister played with it at home, whatever. So we know they're durable, so that's good. Okay. Another really good writing tool that I want to show you. And this is excellent for note-taking. So it helps with memory, it helps to study for tests. It's called the Live Scribe Pen. And what it does is it records what's being said. And it looks like a pen. So it doesn't look funny. See how assistive technology, we used to have big clunky stuff. Kids really avoided it. And now we have really cool stuff that looks normal in the classroom, right? Yeah, like a spy, yeah, really. And every kid will say, let me try it. So, we'll let it start up. It says Marla's Smart Pen. Okay, so I've taken notes with this. Let's see. See if they'll do it for me. Come on.
Today we're going to talk about assistive technology and what you look at the pen.
Isn't that neat? So what we do is, on the bottom of these pages, it has a record, pause, stop, and bookmark, and so forth. And so this is a special notebook, but it's not an expensive notebook. And so I want to date my notes, and I want to write the topic of the notes. Maybe, so I remember, okay, we were in this class, we talked about whatever, okay? So let's say we're going to talk about rats. Rat labs right down the hall. So I'm just going to write rats, and today is 2/12/15. And so I'm going to make a dot here, right there. So I have rat 2/12/15 on my note page, and I'm going to hit the record button down here. Let's talk about the rat lab today. When you go into the rat lab, name your rat, let it try to run around the mazes. See if it gets to the end of the maze to get its prize. Then you'll learn how psychologists do experimental psychology and develop theories and get their names in print. I'm going to hit stop. Okay, so let's see what it does.
Let's talk about the rat lab today. When you go into the rat lab, name your rat, let it try to run around the mazes. See if it gets to the end of the maze to get its prize. Then you'll learn how psychologists...
Okay, then I hit stop. Isn't that neat? How many of you love note-taking? This pen is, it's like $100. I've had it for 3 years. It works really well, and I don't use it often. I just use it for this purpose to show you in class. But what a nice tool this is for college, right? You should have gotten that along with your iPads. But
And it writes at the same time, so you don't write on paper?
no,
Oh,
no. But you can upload the lecture to your computer and listen to it. You can write on the
yeah, that's what I
paper.
meant, like you don't write on the paper.
It won't. You have to do the physical writing.
That's
No, that's what I meant, it has pen ink in it, it has ink.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah.
He's
It
saying
does.
like, could you write while you're recording?
You could, yeah, you could, and fill in some of your notes. So, to me, that is wonderful assistive technology. And I'll give you an example of a student that we had use it. We had a student, a young man who had a learning disability in just in writing. But you know what his learning disability was? It was dysgraphia. It hurt him to write. The physical act of writing was painful to him, okay? And so, for his assistive technology to take notes in his high school classes and not have a para take notes, they bought him a smart pen. So he could do that, he could just put the day's date and what class it was, and then record his notes just with one tap of the pen, and go home and listen to his notes to take before he took tests. It's pretty neat. It's a really good assistive technology to help kids be independent. Before that, guess who took his notes? A para. Was he actively involved in the learning? No. Absolutely not. But once he was in charge of his own note-taking, he was actively involved in his learning. Okay? So, really, really good assistive technology. for people who have dysgraphia, or people who have dyslexia or severe reading disability cannot write, listen, spell, remember how to spell, and watch the teacher. It's just an impossible task. There's too much for them to do. And if you want them to learn from what you're doing in class, this is a perfect tool for them, because they can concentrate on the speech only, which is really important. Okay? Any questions about that smart pen, other than the fact you really want one? Yes?
Does it have a amount of storage that you have to empty, or does it just continue to record?
I think this has 2 gigabytes. Yeah, and you can buy them with more gigabytes.
So
But you could empty
and when you're done with it, you just empty.
it, erase the file. Yeah, that's a good question. So how much storage does it have?
How much does it cost?
That's $100.
Now,
And you recharge it on your computer. So
if you were to like fill out the notebook with actual ink,
you buy
you
more
put
notes.
the special notebook, like, and
Yes, yeah.
is the notebook like cheaper than your pen?
Oh, yes. You can get that notebook at Staples, office supply stores. Yeah, they have them. And they're not expensive. That's a good question. We tried copying the page so it had those buttons on the bottom, but it didn't work. It was worth a try, right? Okay. Any questions you have today about what we've done so far? None? For Tuesday, I want to show you Write Out Loud and Co-Writer and some student writing samples. And these 2 pieces of software I want to show you on Tuesday were developed by Don Johnston for students who learned like he learned. I'm having issues with the computer letting me load the Write Out Loud. It's always letting me load in the past, so I'm going to work some more with it. And I'll show you some more on Tuesday. Before Tuesday, I want you to put Show Me, download Show Me app on your iPad, and it's free, and download Edu Creations, EDU, and then Creations. So I'll write that up here for you.
And then we have an assignment due tonight, right?
Okay, just a second. So put these on your computer, and then also, can I have everybody's attention? Dragon dictation. I want you to put those 3 apps on your iPad. They're all of them free, and they're all of them, wow. That's how good they are. And so we'll try those also on Tuesday, okay? When we started talking about assistive technology, we talked a little bit about the different levels of assistive tech. There's low tech, there's medium tech, and there's high tech. And a good way to remember the differences is that low tech takes no power sources. Easy. Mid-tech, we're going to say you should take some battery source, and high-tech, an electric source. So it's kind of an easy way to determine. Also, cost is related to that. So if there's a mid-tech technology that uses a battery source and it's expensive, we'll call it high-tech. But so we figure cost into that as well. Okay. So I want to show you some low-end technology for students who have reading difficulties. Okay, and so this will be considered assistive technology for those students. And I've got some shoved in here together. There it is. Okay. These are colored overlays. These are colored overlays. How many of you sit with a book at wherever you study? At home, at your desk, at the library, in your classrooms, and there's a glare off the page. You ever get that? At my kitchen table, that's where I study. My book, the old textbook, I used to have to sit like this, kind of, to keep the reflection off, because the reflection interferes with my reading, and eventually I get pretty eye fatigue. Students with reading disabilities may experience that at 3 times the amount that you do. Now, I had a student who had learning disabilities, and it was the one I talked about whose mom had that cookie contraption. Remember what I talked about?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And so this girl sometimes read, let's pretend this is her page right here. Sometimes she read like this. Sometimes she turned her textbook upside down and read like this. And we were doing a corrective reading program that's research-based for students who have dyslexia and severe reading disabilities. So one day I said to her, I'll make up her name here, Becky, why do you put your arms like this around your book? And she said, well, sometimes the words jump off the page, and this keeps all the words on the page for me. Wow. I had never even considered that students moved on a page for students who had dyslexia. Never considered it. And then as I read more and see more about students with dyslexia, I see, yeah, that's true for some kids. Can you imagine that? So having a colored overlay sometimes is just enough assistive technology that it keeps the words on the page and they don't have to surround the book with their arms. Isn't that interesting? And some days she read with it upside down, her book upside down. I said, why do you read with your book upside down? And she said, today I can see the words better and read them better with my book upside down. Who knows what's happening with the brain and reading in those students who have dyslexia? They're doing a lot of brain studies with it and seeing what parts of the brain lights up. But I just, as a person who's not a neurologist, it's hard for me to understand that. But you don't have to understand it to accept it. Sometimes that's the way kids see the pages and the words on their page. So these are some colored overlays, and I just bought them from a company online. I went to Amazon and found them. And a lot of the pages are missing because students have said to me in my 560 class, wow, that really helps with my text. And I say, here, take it. You can have it. No use for them to sit in my file drawer, right? And so what we do is we don't just say, Keely, you're going to use this one, and Taylor, you get the orange one today. What we say is, try these and see which one works better for you, best for you. Mine that works really well for me is this light blue one. And my eyes actually say to me, ooh, that feels so good. Because it does, it makes my eyes relax, and I don't have trouble reading. So I'm going to pass these around and just have you try some. If you have a piece of white paper with something written on it, it'll be helpful for you to get that idea. And just jot down what color works better for you. So if a student responds well to this assistive technology, the colored overlays, and can read much better, you can stop there. You don't have to explore mid-tech and high-tech assistive technology. If the colored overlays work, that's great, it works. Here's one that's similar to that, and these are the reader helpers. And so the reader helpers work. Either you can put this line under the line of reading, because we know that students with dyslexia, those words jump lines. That's just well known. And this will help the words stay on the line you're reading. Or you can put this fat part on like 2 lines that you're reading and have that there for you. Yes?
Does that also happen like when kids have astigmatism? Because that used to happen to me all the time, like when I'd be reading.
Really?
I think I
Yeah.
just have astigmatism, I think. But I've always been like a slow reader and had to follow with my finger.
And that's okay. So this might work really well for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had a teacher that gave me one when I was like in elementary school, or like learning to read.
And it helped?
Yeah, I mean,
Good.
it's better than having to follow with my finger all
Yeah.
the time, because I could just like slide it down instead of like finishing the line and then trying to make sure I get back to it.
And still you're training your eyes to read fluently from left to right without having your finger movement, so that's really good. How many teachers have told you, don't finger read, don't put your finger under what you're reading? Anybody ever been told that? Our teachers used to in school. Stop using your finger to follow along. Use your eyes. Whoa, what if I need my finger? So if kids are doing that, that might be a really good clue that they need something like this, a reading helper with that.
I'm sorry.
So, anyway, I'll start these with Sharpie. Here you go. All right. So any questions about those two pieces of low tech? Any questions about those?
What were those called again?
Colored overlays. And so I bought that kit for about $35, and like I said, there's a few pages missing. And then I went to Staples and found some plastic sleeves you can put in your notebook. They're different colors of plastic. And so you can actually just cut the side off. So that here you have your colored overlays, and you get 4 or 5 for $4. So it's inexpensive. The colors aren't quite as dynamic, and you don't get as large of a range of colors, but these will still work. And you can also cut these up to use to place under your lines for reading. So, and if other kids say, well, let me try one, what would you say? Sure. Hey, choose one you like. If you like it, use it. That's fine. Okay? So, anyway, it's easy to get these as well at Staples. All right? Now, any questions about those so far? What you've seen today so far? See if this one's going to show up. Here we go. The first thing you have to do is say ooh and ah. Would you do that? Come on, ready? Ooh, ah. That's my granddaughter when she was a year old. Anyway, she's now 3. She is the yardstick. She's the yardstick I use to measure your ability to teach. After you finish my class, I say, is this student good enough to teach my granddaughter and provide her a really good education in 2nd grade? And so she's kind of a yardstick I use now, because she's very valuable to me, and I only want the best teachers to teach her. And wouldn't you, right, with your children? So anyway, there's my little yardstick for you. And now I want to show you 2 pieces of assistive technology. They're actually software. And they are Co-Writer and Write Out Loud. These were developed by Don Johnston, our hero who wrote Building Wings. Co-Writer is word prediction software. It helps the poor speller. And Write Out Loud is text to speech. And the way to remember this is that you write and then it speaks, so written text to speech, okay? So I'll write these on the board for you so you can see them, and then I'll just let you pass them around and look at them. But Don Johnston developed these because they help children like him learn to be successful in the classroom, because we know he really, his teachers struggled teaching him, didn't they? So, Co-Writer is word prediction, and you'll see what I mean by that. And Write Out Loud is text to speech. Software. This one license for Co-Writer costs about $325 for one computer. It's pretty pricey. The Write Out Loud text-to-speech is about $89 per computer, so it's really affordable, okay? So let me show you these. They would not load, I couldn't get them to load on this computer, but a really cool thing about Don Johnston, I called one of their tech support persons yesterday, and she talked me through the process to get the add-on I needed so Write Out Loud and Co-Writer would load. She stayed with me about an hour on the phone. Very helpful. Okay, so Co-Writer is word prediction, and that is, get a new file. That is this right here, the co-writer. See the blue right there? Okay. And so what it does is it predicts words ahead as I start typing. Children all people have spelling disabilities are tied usually to their reading disabilities, and they usually spell pretty phonetically. So the dictionary in Write Out Loud, or co-writer, is very phonetic as well. And the cool thing about it, and don't ask me how software works like this, but it remembers your vocabulary as you've been typing on the program. Very, very interesting. Okay, so let me show you how this works. Are you ready? Okay, here we go.
Hi.
Okay, see, it's given me these options. So now I can listen to see what is that word I wanted.
Visit. Visited. Voted. Very. Very. Big.
Now, look what it did.
That you all came to class today.
So, what you do is you, as soon as you put in your ending punctuation, it sends it up into a word processing program. Write Out Loud, the text-to-speech program, is a word processing program I prefer for students who have writing difficulties. Okay?
And you said this would be like a mid-tech?
This is high-tech because of cost, and you have to have a computer to use it. That's a good question. Thank you. All right, someone else, give me another sentence. That kind of goes with this one, and let's just try a few, okay? And watch the screen as I'm typing. Another sentence. Taylor.
Today. Did you all do your homework for today? Did you all do your homework for today?
Okay.
Why does it say you all like that? Like, what?
Because it typed in the U and it had the dash all. But you can take it out when you come up here and edit it. It just had that available for me. Watch.
You.
See how it gives me this?
Oh.
I don't
Yeah,
know
but
why.
why does it have a dash?
Ask.
I don't know.
Plural for everyone.
I can do that.
Then that would be an apostrophe.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah, the,
It'll be
Okay,
y'all,
so-
but you all is the full word y'all.
Yeah, it's a sign for you all. You all. So, I don't know. That's just the way the dictionary has it in there, Joseph. Good question though.
Does this put commas and semicolons?
No, it does not. That's a good question. Does it put punctuation in for you? No. And that's why I like this as a writing tool, because when you think about the objective, if you want to just get the student's thoughts, you can use like Pages, where you can record what you want to say, or you can use drag and dictation, which you're going to download and try on your own later, and we'll do some in class with it. Or if I want to talk about the process as well as the product, then I'm going to have the student use Write Out Loud for to write papers or to write a paragraph. When they're young, they don't write term papers, 3-page papers. They write a paragraph or a page eventually, right? Yes.
Does it read it to you like when you're done with like the whole thing?
I'll show you. Yeah, it does.
And then like, there's like a setting where you can like slow it down when it reads it to you?
Good, so I'll show you those. Okay.
So this is the cheaper, this is the $80 one?
Well, this one right here, the word prediction is $325. I have two open right now. Co-writer is now open. It's word prediction, and it only remembers the word that's typed at the moment. It doesn't have memory to go back and search for something you've previously written.
This isn't Write Out Loud.
This one right here, see where it says co-writer? And I set it up for me. I set up the user as me, so it has my name there. So I have two programs open. Co-writer is the software that's word prediction. It was originally developed for people who had physical disabilities. So it reduced the amount of keystrokes they had to make so that they could write more quickly. But it was found very quickly that it was really helpful for students who had spelling difficulties. Okay. So there are two programs open. Co-writer, the word prediction, is the one I have right now with my cursor on it. Okay. And then the write out loud is the word processor that's actually text to speech. Okay?
Do you have to have both of them for them to work together?
I can use Pages, or I can use Microsoft Word, or I can use, what are some other word processors that you use? ODT, rich text format. You can save in those. I can use it for my email. I can use it in graphic organizer that's online.
So basically anything that you're typing, it'll
Pretty
read
much,
out.
yeah.
But you
yeah.
can just type it up there in that, can't you?
Right. So I want to show you something else about it. Here's how I manipulate and set my settings for co-writer. So I'm going to use that little arrow and turn it around. And the user, I could go here and add a new user. Okay, and it tells me all these things.
Create shortcut. Activate selected user.
So you
Select
just,
the name of the writer whose settings and vocabulary you want to use or change.
so see, it knows my vocabulary a little bit. Okay, and then when I go to settings, I can set the speech rate. I can set the voice.
Select the voice co-writer will you
And there aren't very many, but there are a few. And I can set my text size
change this.
and my background color and text color. For my vocabulary, it has three dictionaries. Do not assume that young children need a beginning dictionary, okay? I always say use advanced.
Yeah, because
Because-
that'll have the
yeah.
lower words in it too.
Exactly. It's got like 40,000 words, so it's not all inclusive, but it's a good dictionary. I've had college students use this to complete their TWS and submit it, pass the TWS and had a job in April before graduation in May. So the student had some writing difficulties, but when he heard it, then he could go in and make corrections. So, and then you can create your own word bank, and there are topic dictionaries.
Recent top
So you can add, there's more,
topic. Category list.
so there's a big list of topic.
Category of topic dictionaries you would like to see.
Okay, stop, be quiet.
Okay.
Okay, now to get me back to co-writer, I've gotten everything in, I've gotten, be quiet. I've gotten everything set the way I want it for me. So I just turn this little arrow and I go back to my half screen of co-writer, okay? So, all right. I'm gonna close co-writer, is that okay with you? Raise both hands if that's okay. All right. Now let's go up to write out loud. So someone asked, how can I listen to what I've read? So I'm going to highlight the one sentence at a time because I need to listen to only one sentence at a time because of processing speed. Remember that many students who have learning disabilities have processing speed issues. They need more time to process. So the first sentence I'm going to listen to, and I'm going to click on this speaker icon up here.
I'm very happy that you all came to class today.
Okay. And then I'm going to highlight the last sentence.
Did you all do your homework for today?
Okay. Now, give me another sentence, and I'll just type it and write out loud. Who can give me another sentence? Suzanne, can you give me one?
Thank you all for turning in your homework on time.
All right. Okay.
THM, can you all FR turn in your homework on TME?
Okay. So right away, I know you don't have real words, don't I? Right? Because it's saying them, it's spelling them as letters rather than words. So let's spell check this sentence. So I'm going to highlight it, and I'm going to go to the ABC dictionary for spell check. So
Checker.
I want this one. Okay, homework, so I'm gonna change that one. Okay? Now, it did not,
Spell correction is completed.
okay, it did not get the FR, did it? Okay, it's completed,
Spell
so,
correction is completed.
FR must be an abbreviation for something, and so, and time. I'm surprised we didn't get time. Let's look at this.
Spell checker.
But then,
Me. Time.
got that one right. Okay, I'm gonna just highlight this one and look at spell checker. So I can highlight it and go to the dictionary.
Dictionary.
So it must see that as an abbreviation. But here's the word suggestions. And I can listen to it, and then it tells the definition. It will read that for you.
4. Preposition. Used to show what purpose or direction. This letter is for you. We set out for home.
Okay, so
That's
that you
number
can get.
one.
Let's listen to
To
this one.
length of time or distance. We've been waiting 4 hours.
Or maybe
They
wait.
walked for 3 miles. 3 price on cost. She bought it for $5. For an alternative, you should trade in your old car for a new model. 5 cause or reason. He was rewarded for bravery. I only did
On
it
the
for
right,
money.
there's a stop
6
talking button
reference. She has a good ear for
above
music.
copy.
7 support. Are you for us or against us?
That.
4 conjunction. Literary use. Because they paused, but they heard a noise.
That might be more information than I wanted.
Preposition. Used to show what purpose or direction.
But I did find
This letter is
4.
for you.
So I'm gonna change it. There you go. All right, all right. So, I had to go to the dictionary to see what was going on with that. So, I didn't catch that one. All right. But, let me show you some other ways this can be used. Okay. Well, I worked with a student one summer, and he loved practicing his spelling list using Write Out Loud. We did the ball bouncing, we did the pipe cleaners, we did the shaving cream, we threw the ball at the board and spelled, we did all those things. And he's a very kinesthetic kind of kid. This is what he preferred. He preferred Write Out Loud. So it was really neat. You can change the color of the text. I want to do text color. And I can make it green. Okay, so I can practice.
MONDAY.
Okay. Now, so he could practice his words and he used different fonts. At that summer, this student was in 3rd grade and he had really severe reading and spelling difficulties. He learned in 3 weeks, he learned the days of the week, the months of the year, and words having to do with hunting because he and his dad were avid hunters. He learned so many spelling words that summer. It was amazing. And I would say, okay, here are some options. Which one do you want to use to practice your spelling words? And he always chose the Write Out Loud. And then when I gave him the spelling test, that's what he used for a spelling test. So why not, right? If a student has trouble spelling, let them have a word processor to practice spelling and to write spelling tests. That's okay to do that. You can also copy and paste from the web in here, which is very nice to have it read. We copied and pasted a book from, I think it was The Pearl by Pearl Buck, right? No, by John Steinbeck. And listened to the whole book on Write Out Loud because it was a copyright-free book. But let's do this one.
But I bet it still talks.
I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to paste it in Write Out Loud. All right, so let's listen to it. Copied right from the web page.
The domestic dog is a usually furry, carnivorous member
you can see how you can copy anything from the web or your email or any text from the computer and paste it into Write Out Loud. It reads it right away. Okay. Another way that it can easily be used is if you come across a word that you're...
Dog was the first domesticated animal and has been widely.
Okay. And you're not sure what the word is, then you can type it in and it'll read it for you. Okay, so...
P-R-I-C-E.
I'm going to shut off speaking letters.
Priceless.
Okay, so if I want to find out what that means, then I can take it to the dictionary and it will read
Dictionary.
the definition of it for me.
So can we take FR to the dictionary and see what it's an abbreviation for?
I did.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did earlier. And then I got all this stuff about for because I clicked on for and it was crazy. Yeah, yeah. So you can just use this many ways. I'll tell you a story about a friend of mine whose daughter has reading and spelling disabilities due to a stroke she had in utero. Okay. She always wanted to cook for her mom. She couldn't read the recipe. And her parents bought her Write Out Loud, and well, they bought her a laptop first and then Write Out Loud. And so she took it to the kitchen, shut the doors, and said, "Don't come in until I call you." And she actually then made a recipe because she was able to type words in that she didn't know and to write out loud, and it told her what that word was. And when her mom, when she said, "Okay, you guys, you can come in and eat now," her mom just cried rivers of tears because she did this by herself using some assistive technology. It was really exciting. So, what other questions do you have about Write Out Loud? I'm going to give you time to use it in a little bit. Okay,
Once
so
you have it,
try
you
it.
have it forever.
Pardon me?
But it's like you get it and then you can only put it on one computer, but you have it.
Have it forever. Yep. And to demonstrate, I think I can use it on up to 3 computers. And I bought it, and I told the company when I bought it, I'm buying this to demonstrate to students who are going to be elementary ed teachers. And so they never question when I call with a question about the technology support. That's a good question. Now, there probably have been 5 versions of these 2 software programs since the time that I became familiar with it about 20 years ago. So they do update. So if it no longer works on your computer, look at how many updates are ahead of you. Now, another good thing about the company though is that although CodeWriter cost me $325, when the company comes out with the next version, they will take my CodeWriter back and sell me a new one for like $75. So they're really good about updating your software for you and allowing it. We traded in 50 copies of CodeWriter and we got new editions of them for a minimal amount of money. Because you figure what's 50 times 325? That's a lot of money, right? So that's a really good thing about this company. Okay, other questions about it? If I have to choose 2 of my favorite assistive technology software programs, it's these 2. And it helps so many writers develop self-confidence. I tutored a student from the time he was 11 until he was 18. And his teacher called me from his elementary school and said, "Marla, you have to help," I'll call him Jeremy, "you have to help Jeremy. He's starting to get into trouble a lot, and his self-esteem is just plummeting to the floor. I know this because of how he walks around and he doesn't look at anyone. Can you work with him on his writing?" And that's a special ed teacher. And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I can do that." But because I privately tutor, I don't have to follow all the guidelines the schools have to. So I have a lot of freedom to help kids. Whereas teachers really don't have nearly as much freedom. They have to follow guidelines and meet deadlines and all that. So I taught him how to use CodeWriter because he spells about the 1.5 grade level still today, and he's 20. Very smart man, very smart man. And I taught him how to use Write Out Loud. And we spend our evenings up here tutoring 3 nights a week using these 2. And I gave him many writing prompts. knowing his interests. And we worked night after night after night. And he eventually, when he was 17, he wrote an article for Bowhunter magazine to enter a contest, and actually won a prize from that contest using these programs. So his mom said he also had a speech disorder. His articulation skills just were not good at all. And he was in speech therapy for many years. And finally, he didn't want to go to speech therapy any longer. He was just tired of it. So his mom exited him out of the program by signing a release form. And later that year, she told me, she said, you know, Marla, I think his speech is much better than it used to be, and I think it's because he's successful with his writing. His self-esteem improved a lot, and he was more confident in his speaking. And she saw big gains in his behavior at school and also in his motivation to learn, because he knew he could be successful if he had the right tools. And I've just seen this over and over with children. Oh my goodness. It's amazing that your writing can have such an impact on your self-esteem. But it really does for the students that I've tutored. And I've tutored probably 10 of them using these programs. And I have just seen their skills, their vocabulary. I've seen them grow so much. So if I could choose 2 software programs for writing, it would be these 2. They're fantastic. Okay. Questions, comments? One of the little guys I worked with, he said, is this a free app? Can I go on my iPod and download this free app? And I said, well, for $89 you could. But no, probably not. Oh, darn it. Now I want to show you another writing tool. This uses 6 batteries, 6 AA batteries. So what would you call it? Mid-tech. Yeah. It probably costs about $225 when we look at all assistive technology, the big picture of it, that's not terribly expensive. This is called a Neo. And the Neo has 8 files. And on each file, you can save a document on each file. And then you can plug in a plug to this and the computer to connect them to and say print. And if you open up Word, it will then print your document to Word. So it's really cool. We used it for a little girl who had cerebral palsy because she couldn't hold a pencil and write. But many students, if they have dysgraphia, the inability to write, physically write, this is a much better tool for them. So it's an option for writing. Okay. I don't care for it too much because the screen is green and it doesn't show me the whole screen. But for some students, this is fine. It works well. And I had a college student who worked for me down at the Resource Center, and this was before everybody had laptops. And her parents had bought her an AlphaSmart, which is the forerunner of the Neo. And this is what she used all through college and wrote her graduate thesis in art therapy on it. So it really has good memory. So I'll just I'm not going to pass it around and let you try it right now. I'm going to have you come up and try it in a little bit. How's that? Okay, so this is the Neo. And once again, this company will take in your old ones and sell you new ones for like $75. Really good. These are very durable also. So if kids drop them, they're not going to break. Very durable. And you can charge the battery pack if you have rechargeable batteries. So this has been around for a long time, and the Don Johnson Company does sell this, so it's kind of the one-stop shopping place for all assistive technology. Okay. Now if I can get this back open, yes I can. Okay, we're going to go to Snap and Read. Now, I want to show you an example of some technology that doesn't work really well. When you're shopping for assistive technology and you and the assistive assistive technology team are looking for what's appropriate to meet the student's needs to do the tasks required at school. You're shopping, and I looked for screen readers for a semester. And finally I called Don Johnston, the one-stop shopping for all assistive tech. Not really, but, and they had Snap and Read. Snap and Read, the lady at Don Johnson said they had just developed this, it just had come on the market for sale, and it would read anything on your computer screen. And I said, I want to buy it. $59, that's not bad, because one summer I spent all my tutoring money on assistive tech, so I could demonstrate it to you all in classes. And so I said, send it to me. So she sent me the disk, and then I was able to download it on a little Turtle thumb drive that I use, whether it's in Kramer Hall, at Opie High School, in the dean's office, whatever. I can use this software called SnapRead. So I bought it. Let me show you something with SnapRead. Okay, so I'm going to get me, I'm going to open the internet to find something to read. We'll go to Google. Okay. And once again, I'll type in dog reads. Okay. Everybody loves dogs, right? Well, if you don't, you love cats, so that's okay, that's good. All right, so we'll just go to the Afghan Hound. It's the first one I found. And to use SnapRead, okay, what you do is you click on this thing up here in the corner, this icon, and it turns into a box that you're going to click and drag around your text. Okay. Now it's going to let us read.
Stit is glamorous pipe but at 3T0F1. The Afghan Hound is 3F1T pipe single quote 3TH3L single quote 1. Fed to CF18S down Q3FT single quote pipe 0VFF.
Did I waste my $59? Yes, I did. And what I'm going to do, it used to work better than that. So maybe because the computers are newer and updated, it's not working as well. But I'm going to call and say, listen to this. And I'll just hold the phone up to it. Here's SnapRead. What can you do to help me? Because I know they've improved it. Okay. So another lesson might be, don't just buy something that's just been developed. Okay? Might not be a very good idea. Okay. Questions so far? Comments? Let's review the SET framework once again. Okay? So we'll put all this into how do you choose the assistive technology for the student? Okay. What's the S stand for?
Student.
Student. Okay, and what do you think about when you consider the student? What's that? Needs and strengths. Good. So strengths and needs, good. What's the E stand for?
Environment.
Environment. Okay, what do we mean by that? Classroom. And we're considering the classroom in this class because we're talking about students who have learning disabilities, emotional behavior disorders, speech and language problems, mild intellectual disabilities, and then also within this class we talk about students who have ADHD, students who have high functioning autism. Okay. So we're considering the environment as a classroom. Okay. How about this first T? Tasks. Okay, what tasks do we require children to do in elementary school? Read, write, communicate, math. Okay. Reading directions, listening to directions, and then following directions, right? Okay, that's right. So we think those are the tasks we are focusing upon. And then the last one is tools. Okay, so we have to look at what are the tasks and what are the students' needs? What are those barriers that are gonna keep them from reading or writing or following directions or listening, okay? So that's how we determine which tools to look at. And it's important to then include the student in the acquisition of the technology so that he or she feels comfortable with it and not embarrassed by it. Because if they're embarrassed by it, they'll never use it. And you cannot blame the child for that, for not using assistive technology that embarrasses him or her. You just can't blame them. You probably didn't include him enough in choosing that tool, okay? So does it bring set together in your mind and about how to think about choosing assistive tech for children? Okay, good, all right. So now what I want you to do for a few minutes, about 15 minutes, is I'm going to have you divide into groups and I'm going to allow you to interact with some of this assistive tech, okay?